All right, good local time to everyone. This is the February 23rd rendition of the Kubernetes community meeting. It is public and recorded, and so don't say anything you don't want your mother to see on the internet. Let's be clear. Um, my name is Sarah, and of course, we are starting with our usual round of a demo. And today, Victoria from Mirantis is going to be talking about Virtlet, and I see she's already sharing her screen, which is awesome. So Victoria, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Hi again. My name is Victoria Fimova. I'm from Mirantis, yes. And today I'd like to talk about new kubelet runtime we're developing to run Chemo KVM virtual machines on Kubernetes cluster. We called it Virtlet. It utilizes CRI API to accomplish its aim, and thus it's natively integrated with Kubernetes. So let's start from a quick overview of high-level architecture of Virtlet. Basically, Virtlet is a Docker container, and inside it we see at first Virtlet daemon, which contains CRI server implementation and functionality to manage libvirt. For networking, Virtlet uses CNI plugins to get virtual Ethernet pair and IP to use for VM. Virtlet composes the XML domain definition and passes it to libvirt's daemon, but instead it replaces emulator to use its own Chemo wrapper. It is done to be able to set up networking to VM and start Chemo process inside pod's network namespace, and also to serve DHCP requests from Spawned VM to pass it to its IP and routes. Now we have a Virtlet container, but we need also to deploy it somehow. The most preferable way is to use in-place existing mechanisms, and also not to be limited to ability to run only VMs on the node. We thought that we need some way to support several runtimes on the same node. And in that way, we could deploy Virtlet as daemon set. We've accomplished it by implementing CRI proxy, which implements also CRI server API and forwards requests from kubelet to write runtime based on image prefixes. So to be able to manage Docker, CRI proxy also contains in-process Docker shim, and for all images without prefix, the requests will be forwarded to it and further to Docker. So there is no need for any changes in pod's definition for Docker runtime. And for Virtlet, you just need to create pod definition with image with Virtlet prefix. So let's go further. For practical part, at first, want to say a few words about the way we use to easy and quickly deploy multi-node Kubernetes cluster on single host for development and testing, and which is also used today to show which is also used to show today's demo. We deploy a cluster using Kubebutton integrated with Docker in Docker for nodes emulation. There are three Docker container spawned on the host to emulate three nodes for Kubebutton. And each of containers has inner Docker daemon running inside, so all of nodes are capable to spawn own containers inside them, and master node is deployed by using methods with static pods for deploying control Kubernetes components. And we have also one node labeled with extra runtime Virtlet to distinguish it from others, and which is capable of running VM pods along with container pods. So that's the VM pod definition we are going to create a bit later. So as you see, it's common pod definition. It has a node affinity to provide a way to schedule pod on the right node, which is capable of running VMs. And the only difference is that you need to not forget to add Virtlet prefix to the to the image you specified to use for VM, and after that you can specify URL. So let's create this pod. Let's at first check our pre-deployed cluster. So as I said, we have three Docker containers on the host for three nodes. We can also check it using kubectl. We have a cluster from three nodes. So let's find our Virtlet deployed on one of the nodes as a regular pod. So here it is. Let's use the upper screen to work within, to run commands inside this Virtlet container. Let's connect to it using kubectl as well. Kubectl exec. So we're in. Let's check that there is no running VMs, and let's run one. So here we use the definition, pod definition, which we reviewed before. It's absolutely the same. Sorry. So here it is. We created a VM pod. Let's check that VM was created. Yes, it is created. Let's connect to its console. So yes, as you see, it is created and IP address was assigned to the interface, and you can ping outside. So now let's check that we also can access other pods and services from inside VM. For this purpose, let's just create 2 pods plus the service. Sorry.
Victoria, we've got about 2 more minutes.
What?
We have about 2 more minutes. If you can kind of bring this to a close.
Okay. I always almost at the end.
Perfect.
So yeah. So just okay. We created pods. So let's ping the one which is on the other node. For example. Oh, yes, it's successful. And also we have Nginx service, so let's make request for it by its name. Yes, it's also fine. So a few words about our next plans. We have CNI support now, but we need still validate Calico and Flannel. Also, we plan to add VM migration between nodes, to add persistent storage for VMs, and to experiment with running unikernel applications. And current use cases for Virtlet that we see are disposable ephemeral VMs, application designed to run on other platforms, and run VMs based on images which somebody has with pre-configured system. Could be viewed as first step of migration for on Kubernetes. So that's all what I wanted to present today. Thanks a lot for your attention, and we'll update you as soon as we will have something more interesting. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I was going to just that. Thank you, Victoria. Do we have any questions for her? I didn't see much other than a link to the notes in the chat. So anybody else can reach out to you how? What's the best way for anyone who has further questions to reach you, Victoria?
Well, probably if there is some questions, you can create issue in GitHub.
Okay.
In our repository.
Can you put into the community notes, which Jason dropped a link to in the chat, can you put in the community notes your GitHub repository for Virtlet?
Yeah, I will if there is no already.
If it isn't already there. Okay, awesome. Thanks very much. All right, so let's move on to our net topic. And in this, shall we say, run up to 1.6, oddly enough, we're going to go into releases. Dan, are you on the call to chat through what the 1.6 release world looks like?
Yeah, totally.
Fantastic. Here we go.
Okay, so in 1.6 news, we cut the branch for the 1.6 release on Tuesday, and the test infrastructure for that branch is in the process of being set up right now. Coming up this Monday will be code freeze. So if you have any features that you're trying to get into 1.6, you should be getting them as soon as possible. If you're not able to make it, unfortunately, all changes will have to go through the exception process. And I have linked to that process right now. So if you want to, if it's looking like you're going to have to miss it, you may want to like start going through those processes and seeing if your change makes sense to go through that process. So the next item is dealing with flakes. Flakes have sort of flared up in the last few days. Right now, the SMIC queue is actually blocked as we speak. So they're clearly a problem. And in terms of making the release, this is definitely a very high priority in order to address. To help with that effort, we have added a functionality to the bot where it will now start labeling flakes as they occur with SIGs. And we're hoping to push the responsibility for addressing flakes, or at least for the triage of the flakes, to SIGs. So I'm hoping that every single SIG meeting, and I'll send out an email with more information about this, but each SIG, every time they meet, go through the list of current flakes and ensure that work is being made to address them. And that bot hopefully should be running within a few hours. It's already been merged.
Can we talk about this a little bit more? Because like, this isn't gonna work, right? I mean, we've done this. This is, we've been through this so many times. And no one is motivated to fix this. And the only way to motivate anyone to fix it is to freeze code and to force people to fix it. And also we need monitoring, because I can send emails and say like, gee, it looks like things are getting worse. But if I can point out a graph and be like, our flake rate is going from 5 to 10 to 15 to 40 to, like, we may actually have some chance that we'll do the right thing before we hit crisis mode yet again.
So are you suggesting that we freeze code before Monday, or?
I'm suggesting, well, yes, I think we should freeze code before Monday. That's one. Two, what I'm suggesting is like pushing things into the SIGs. I mean, that's not materially going to improve what we've seen over the last 12 to 18 months of behavior. What's going to materially improve it is something like, we're going to monitor flakes, and when our flake rate goes above X%, we're going to stop merging code. Right? That's what's going to fix things. And yes, pushing these into the SIG will help people figure out what they should look at, perhaps, but you're going to have some sort of stick in order to force people to actually do the work, because this is not fun, right? None of this is fun. And so if there's no stick, and also more importantly, I think there's no monitoring. Like, I think the trouble is that this has been happening for a month and a half, and we have raised some of us have raised alarm bells, and they were not listened to. And part of that is because it's a feeling, it's not a metric. Right? And I mean, and seriously, those of us who've been around the project long enough, this is at least the third time that we've done this. And so it's frustrating, and the last time it was frustrating. And so it's frustrating to see a lack of progress here.
Okay, Brandon, it looks like Ken wants to talk.
Yes, so Brandon, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I agree with you that we need to do it differently. I think what we did last time, by the way, we decided we will not be release with a P0 flake test, and maybe, I don't know if it's possible, but we can, yes, it's probably hard to say that, you know, if a SIG owns a certain, I mean, if a SIG actually fixing all their flakes, I don't want to hold them back for merging things. I don't know if you can do something like that.
I don't think you can make that judgment.
Yes.
that a code in one SIG is not causing flakes in another SIG, right? I just don't think that's accurate, right? Also,
Yes.
You just need a pressure gradient, right? Like, you can't give like, oh, they're the special nice SIG that gets to merge all their code while everybody else deals with flakes over here, right? Like, I don't think that works.
Flakes is a project-wide problem. So if we address it as a project-wide problem, then we actually have more resiliency through for the project.
So I'm sorry, I'm signing a SIG scale here. That's Zoom being freaky on me. This is Joe. I think, you know, it's not an immediate solution, but like breaking up the repo a little bit, I think will mean that we can start to do more targeted freezes and actually isolate where the problems are. So I think, you know, continuing to double down there might provide some help here, but that's not going to solve a problem today.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that the most important thing we should do is monitoring.
I
Right? The
thought
most
we
important
had
thing we should
some.
do is get a metric that says, like, here's our overall, and I think we have some of this. In fact, I think Joe built this at one point,
Yeah,
like our overall flake rate, and I think it just doesn't, like, we haven't pushed it up to a place where, you know, enough people are paying attention, and we don't have enough rules effectively that says, like, we need to start taking action before we're in the ER.
Yeah, usually we do it as part of the burn down meetings.
Mhm.
So last time what we did monitor very closely, and we decided we will not, it will be a release blocker, right? And that's great, some incentive for people to actually fix flakes, right?
Sure, but I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, like, I don't think that this is not something that should be related to the release, right?
Yes,
This is a metric that we should be monitoring as part of
I agree.
overall health. And really, we should have it in Kubernetes or SubmitQ or somewhere where it's like most people look at this most of the time, and then we'll have a real sense. And I think also the trouble is, I think that the flake rate that Joe did was per test, which is great at some level, but we also need, like, the overall project flake rate, right? Because that's what we care about. Overall project flake is what causes the SubmitQ to get worked up, not like individual flakiness. It's like, what's the probability I can run a PR and not have a flake? And that probability a month and a half ago was 0, right? And we should have started looking at it then, and we didn't.
And we now need a new house rule like I used to have around games of dice. On a 5 or a 6, Brendan is always right.
3, 4, 5? No, I just, that's not. Anyway, sorry. It's having been through this and seen it numerous times. It's frustrating to see it come up, and it's frustrating.
Do we have a zero? I had a question earlier about is it practical to say there'd be a 0 flake tolerance? I mean, because otherwise, what do you set as the number?
Well, I mean, I guess what I would say is, let's say what our SLA is, right? What is the probability that any arbitrary PR can run flake free? I mean, probably 2 9s at least would be nice, right? And we're not even at 1 9.
Yeah, that's pretty close to a 0. Pretty close to 0.
And I think the challenge here is that, like, we have over the last month, and I see it in myself, we have trained ourselves to do 2 things. And I've seen this before because we've done this before. We've trained our reviewers to punch EDEs again, just by default, and to not even mark the flakes, not even investigate, not even look, like, because it's just happening too frequently, right? And we got to a point where actually we had really good discipline, and people would look at the flakes, and people would mark the issues, and people would prioritize. And below a certain rate, you can achieve that because it's exceptional. Above a certain rate, people are just going to assume it's the status quo, and they're going to keep pushing this, right? And we need that discipline, and we've never, ever, ever been managed to have it.
So how can we get that discipline? I mean, I'm totally with you about defining an SLA and having the right metric system to make it visible to everybody. I don't know how.
I think closing down the queue. I think we run a rule and we say, look, just like we'd close down if these builds are broken, we're going to close down if our flake SLA is, wherever it is, and we can start low. I mean, I'll start with 50%, right? Like, I don't care, right? Like, we can put it at a place, but that is literally the only hammer that everyone listens to.
What percentage of flakes are just infrastructure because GCE doesn't come up properly?
Very few. Very, very, very few. I almost never see that happen. I mean, I've seen it happen occasionally, but I've almost never seen that happen.
We've gone through the period when we add new targets, like when we brought cops online, where we go through a period where we sort through those. And so that might be a special case, but in terms of like the core tests, infrastructure is pretty rare.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we went through a period where literally, I think we wrapped every G-Cloud call in like 10 retries, right? But we mostly wrung those out of the system, and so now
I think it would be useful to characterize flakes in terms of, is this flaky mainline code, is this a flaky test, or is this flaky infrastructure, and really try and get a breakdown there.
Separation.
Yeah.
So
and then, after we fix a flake, just like maybe bucket it somehow.
So who can lead this effort and participate in SIG testing in a meaningful way to push this forward?
I mean, I think we can do it, but I think what we need more than that is we need the project-wide judgment that we are willing to take this policy. Right? I mean,
Yeah, and I agree with Brendan. The only thing that's worked on previous projects is to just freeze everything and force everybody to work on it until you meet your objective.
But if we take that as the intent and we say when our flakes reach this percentage, then we freeze the submit queue no matter where we are, what we're doing, or where in the release cycle we are, then we need that tooling, and we may or may not have it right now. That part's not 100% clear to me. So
I'm happy to both generate the metric and the proposal on the rule.
I think, by the way, the metric exists.
I disagree. Like Brendan said, we actually need a graph that everybody can see.
We don't have that?
Actually have the data in a form that's consumable by people on the project.
Yeah. And I think we also don't have it in aggregate, right? We only have it per test.
Honestly, if when you get a flake failure result, the percentage number was returned on that comment, that would probably be the minimum that we would need, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think literally we could probably just scrape this out of the GitHub API by looking at the number of PRs that have been retry flaked by a end user.
Yeah, and the only data I've seen in the past is the data for the submit queue, not for the PR builder flakes, right, which is where the problems show up a lot more because there are like 100 times more tests run in the PR builder than in the submit queue.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know if the thing that Joe did to get it all, whether that takes PR or not.
And we also have things like performance tests and the soak test, where we have just a binary result and we don't have useful data for those either. Like the soak test, as far as I know, has never ever passed. So we have no insight into whether it's getting better or worse. But we routinely have problems like the upgrade tests are failing for weeks at a time or months at a time, and nobody notices. So we need much better monitoring.
And I just on the terms of like responsibility aspect of this, I mean, at the end of the day, every SIG, every person contributing, every maintainer is ultimately responsible for it. And we've certainly struggled to find ways to avoid the tragedy of the commons there. And the one advantage of the hammer, as Brendan and Brian noted, is that the hammer applies to everyone equally, and it prevents those sorts of avoidance mechanisms that we all have.
All right, I keep thinking, can we gamify this? Can we do something like fix a flake, you get a PR in?
I totally want to do that. Yeah, I'm in favor of that once we get past crisis mode. Like
we have. I mean, there's like not all PRs are equal, and then it'll like mean Mondo PRs, and like so there's definitely ways to game the gamification. But
I'd like to point out that we've suggested this the past 3 releases in this same meeting for the same set of calls. So I think this should be the time that we change versus just doing it over and over again.
Yes.
Expecting different results.
So Brendan has agreed to draft a policy and make sure that we have the tooling and graph metrics to measure against. What else do we need to back that?
I wanted to suggest that also Phil Whitrock will join Brendan because he has the 1.4 experience.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll get Joe. Is Joe still involved, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll get Joe because he built a lot of the metrics before. So.
Hey, and this is Garrett. I've seen I'm starting to put together all the different places we've been collecting metrics, and they're kind of probably like 5 or 6 different dashboards. But some of them would be well suited for this. Like they already scrape that kind of data from the repository and have them in a SQL database that's easily queryable. So if you want, after you've drafted the policy, get in touch with me and we can start to figure out how to present.
So quick question, how does this impact the release timeline for 1.6? If we shut down the submit queue now, does that mean we push the release back?
I think just some features don't make it.
Yes. By the way, we did it in previous releases too. And worst case scenario, some features will not make it. And if we need to push the release, then we'll push the release.
When is feature freeze?
It's Monday. It was in theory Monday.
It seems a little bit, as somebody who's working to sort of like, get some Kubernetes security stuff in, pulling the rug out from under us and saying the feature freeze is effectively today versus Monday seems a little drastic.
So I understand and I appreciate that, and I'm not going to necessarily argue strongly for it, but there's a degree to which I want to kind of punish people, in all honesty, right? Like I want, like, we talked about this, we said things were happening, and people should feel some pain, right? People collectively made some decisions that were not right, and there should be some pain. But that's me being vindictive. So
in fact, some other people on the project have begged us to have a real stick with meat. They said, look, we can't push back on our product managers or whatever unless there is a stick. So unless the project actually clamps down on things, people are going to continue the current behavior because that's what they're incentivized to do by their management chains.
I think Monday would be sufficient. Okay, again, this is a some people on the community are also volunteering to do some of the work, and if they will not get it done, they will also might lose interest in that too. So
I mean, I'm not going to fight for it. I'm just going to say that, like,
I don't think there's much difference between today or Monday. It's already too late. And we said this was going to be an instability release, and it's turned out to be an instability release. Like, we may need to actually make 1.7 and just say, look, there are no features in 1.7.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I think let's just do Monday. It's not going to materially impact things, but we need this stick to be real. And so going forward, I'm going to rely on the community and the community's leadership to make sure that this stick is real. And
we can also put it as next release with this new metric in place. We will block the submit queue every time we go over some threshold, and that is
that's the expectation.
Yep. So going forward, yes, not this release though, because we have 3 days.
That's fair.
Okay. I like the plan. Okay, so we've talked about submit queue and flakes, and we agree that we are sad about flakes again. We had a couple of questions from the chat. I think they were all answered in chat. Okay. I think they were all answered. If somebody doesn't have something answered, please reach out again. Next up is the rest of Dan's thing, because we interrupted him for this adventure.
Well, that about sums up. Yeah, so definitely just a huge push on flakes. So I think, setting up, especially for when we unfreeze code, setting up the standards and just having it so that we don't unfreeze unless we need them. Sounds good to me. But yeah, I'll follow up with an email about how the tagging and SIGs work. And I think I'm really hoping that SIGs can sort of take the lead on at least the triage part. But yeah, as a community, we need to all take this seriously.
Cool. Awesome. All right. I don't know if Marcin is on to talk about 1.5. I didn't see him. I will get notes about 1.5 next time then. I did see Jess. Jess, do you want to talk about 1.4?
We'll probably, sorry.
There we go.
Okay. We'll probably do a release of like a week from Friday. So there's that. That's about it. So just like ping me on cherry picks and continue to do that.
Okay. And you often release at about the same time as 1.5, right? So have you and Marcin talked about whether or not that'll happen at the same time?
We have not, okay. So I cannot confirm for him.
Yes, you can neither confirm nor deny that might happen.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. All right, let's see what else we've got for agenda items then. SIG updates at this point. SIG cluster lifecycle. Lucas, you had agreed to help us with an update from SIG cluster lifecycle.
Yeah, sure. Well, mostly in the 1.6 release for or the kubeadmin 1.6 release is about security mostly, and I wrote a blog post some months ago about what we think the prioritizations are. One disruptive change is we've enabled RBAC by default, which means, well, it goes for the rest of the project as well, but CNI providers have to bundle RBAC rules if they need access to the API server. For example, flannel and weave and maybe calico. I don't know. need access to the API server, so they should bundle those rules in the install guide. Then we'll secure the API server to kubelet communication, which means kubelet does a webhook check to the API server and verifies that the someone trying to access its API, the kubelet API, is authorized. So basically, no more anonymous auth on that, which was the case in 1.5. Then we have a new cool thing that Joe Bida and the rest of the team at C++ Lifecycle have designed, which is called bootstrap tokens. There are basically secrets of type bootstrap.kubernetes.io /token in the kube system namespace, and they can be used for two different things currently. For a node to validate that this is the server. I know I'm talking to the right server, and it also can be used as authentication instead of the CSV file for token authentication as we have right now. And bootstrap tokens can be dynamically deleted and they expire. They can be expirable as well. Controller manager and the scheduler will now talk securely to the API server. And we have a new label for the master, node role.kubernetes.io/master with no value. And that goes for the taint, master node taint as well. And we have still some PRs to be merged before the code freeze. I think that's a short summary of the current status.
Thank you so much. Anyone have questions from or for SIG Cluster Lifecycle?
Do Joe have anything more to say?
Or Joe, anything to add?
I mean, the only thing I want to say is that the bootstrap token stuff was really about making the stuff be dynamic so that we can expire these, because the current way that people edit tokens is you have to edit the CSV file and pick the API server, and that's just very hard to administer and very hard to secure because those tokens are essentially root. So, you know, our goal here is to minimize the use of tokens and make it so that they can be dynamic and expired. So a lot of work went into that.
Excellent. Thank you everyone for the work, obviously. Okay. Next up is, I believe, SIG Storage. Bradley Childs.
Yes. Hello.
Hello, Brad.
So I was going to run through the 1.6 features that we have in flight. Quite a few of them. I don't see too many SIG storage guys here, so I assume that they're probably grinding away on this stuff right now. So there's an update for the Flex Volume plugin to bring it in line with some of the attached-detached work that's in PR and currently being talked about, and we hope to get that merged pretty quick. Probably one of the bigger changes is we're moving the external storage provisioner library from the NFS provisioner repo to an external storage repo. We're going to leave the original repo and then have like a breadcrumb pointing to the new repo. And the new repo's intent is to hold multiple storage provisioners, you know, that are community owned, and also the library. So we couldn't scale the NFS provisioner repo as it was, so we had to rename it. Another feature, we have mount options pass through. So the ability to supply mount options as part of the persistent volume. We're doing some end-to-end test improvements, and there's a pretty good long list of tests that Erin Boyd and her team's added. We've added features for a default storage class for cloud providers. We're working on cloud provider metrics, so we can, you know, track API calls across cloud providers. We're looking to move storage class from alpha to GA. So was alpha, now we have everything in pull requests, and we think we've hit consensus on that for merge within today or so. And then we're also looking at adding metrics to volume controllers. That works almost completely as well. We have a Scale IO and a Portworx volume plugin that's being added, and then we're currently in the design stages for snapshotting and local PVs. So there's been a lot of SIG discussion on how local PVs should work and how snapshotting should work, but we don't anticipate even having the design really ready for 1.6, but it's underway. And then there's also an attached-detached control refactoring. It's not really a refactoring. It's there was somewhat of an architectural problem when the controller restarted that we're working on. It's a significant change, but it's really more of a bug fix. I can update the notes.
Awesome. Anyone have questions for Brad?
I was just wondering, so storage classes and dynamic provisioning is not going to beta, it's just going directly from alpha to stable? I just wanted to understand the thinking there.
Yes, I don't have the specific reason. Tim was the one that said, I think this is okay for GA.
Tim said it was beta for 2 releases.
Oh, so it is beta currently, is what you're saying? Yeah, I mean, it did come out in 1.4 or 1.5, yeah.
Oh, so, we had alpha provisioning, and I think we considered storage class our beta, and now it's storage class itself is going to GA.
Okay, it's fine, so it is beta. Thank you.
Anybody else? More questions for SIG storage? Okay, let's go on to SIG Autoscaling. Sully, are you there? I think I saw you. If you are, you may still be on mute.
I am muted.
You are muted. Excellent. We found you.
All right. So in terms of 1.6 work, there's 3 major things. So we have the horizontal pod autoscaler version 2 currently into alpha 1. So that will basically allow a more concrete path forward for custom metrics in the horizontal pod autoscaler, which previously had some alpha E bits that weren't particularly usable. So this new version should make them a lot usable. The last of the PRs to get that functionality is currently up, and in the process of being reviewed. Tied in with that is a new repository. It's kates.io/metrics. This will hold the API types for the custom metrics API and the master metrics API, and also holds clients for those. So if you are a project that wishes to consume metrics in some capacity inside of Kubernetes, that is the new place to look for clients for that kind of stuff. It is not, for the moment, currently go-gettable due to an infrastructure issue, which I'm in the process of attempting to resolve. And then finally, we have some cluster autoscaler stabilization work that I believe Martin has been working on. So hopefully that should continue to stabilize over the upcoming release and the next release. So on a quick note for the HPAV2, basically the way that's going to work is that once the HPAV2 stuff gets in, metrics monitoring solutions will be able to implement an API adapter layer, basically, that serves the API from kates.io/metrics. And so this will enable the HPA to consume that API through like Kube aggregator. And so basically the monitoring solutions then have to go after 1.6 and implement the API layer. So if you're interested in doing that, if you are a monitoring solution and you have questions about how that works, feel free to contact us at SIG Autoscaling or me specifically on Slack.
Awesome.
Question about this as well. So custom metrics were alpha, I believe, in a previous release, and now there's a new alpha implementation, if I'm understanding correctly. If users have used the previous alpha implementation, will that continue to work, or should they do something different?
The previous alpha implementation will not continue to work. There were not a ton of people using it, and the people who were using it were having serious issues with it. So we decided that it was better just to kind of go back to the drawing board and just re-implement something a little bit more structured.
Okay, so we will probably need some user communication and documentation for those who are using it today.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll flag that. Thank you.
All right, any more questions for Sully? Awesome. All right, I will presume you are either on mute or you will reach out to him directly if you had questions. And thank you very much for the update. So that is the end of the SIG updates and formal agenda. We have a couple of notices left. There is a KubeCon discount code in the notes, and Brendan's work on a Kubernetes survey is also documented here. Please fill out the survey. We want to know what's going well, what's going poorly, where you want to help, and how we can make this, on the whole, a better, more awesome community, moving faster and getting us to our goals in a meaningful and transparent way.
And along those lines, if anybody wants to do data analysis, if anyone is like super excited about that, because I'm going to try and put together a blog post. Obviously, the raw data will be available after that blog post, but if anybody wants to participate in the data analysis for the blog post, please let me know.
That would be super helpful. Please, please, please take the survey. All right, any other topics for open topics on the floor, notices people want to add in? Or does everybody want to go fix flakes for the next 13 minutes?
Hey, Sarah, this is Rob.
You're going to fix flakes, right? No, go ahead.
I'm biting my tongue on that one. Cluster SigOps, and we're about to meet in a couple hours, is planning a get-together for operators and Kubernetes interested people at GlueCon. So we're talking to the conference organizers to get some space. We're trying to figure out timing and agenda and things like that. But if people are coming to GlueCon, or if they haven't been considering it, it's a great conference. It's a beautiful time of year to be in Colorado. But we will have some Kubernetes time, and we'll continue to coordinate that.
And they can reach out, anyone going to GlueCon can reach out to you in the meantime, and you'll put specifics in the notes as you have them?
As we have, and it'll probably be next week. We're going to talk about it today at the Cluster Ops meeting. And we'll set an agenda and figure out timing.
Awesome. All right, anyone else for notices or topics for discussion? All right, 12 minutes to fix flakes. Good luck. Have a great day, and we will all chat again next week. Thanks.